connecting to cloud server. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So it's starting to record.
Yep. And you can just stop and restart it when you're ready to go.
So the way that I came to the points was really meditating on what would be the most useful points to talk about today. So I'm looking forward, as we're in the depth of spring, to bring some of that upward energy of spring to our session today. So welcome everybody. I invite you to either keep your cameras on or cameras off, knowing that it is recorded, that it is available then for the college for people to access. And then in recording, if you aren't speaking, then it's only me who shows up on the recording. I think most people know now how to work with Zoom. So if you have an issue with any image coming up on recording, then it's best not to speak, or if you do want to speak, you can message me privately through the chat. I can either read it out or you can turn your cameras off. So whatever is right for you. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of our land in Australia, here in Melbourne, the land and the waters upon which I sit, stand and work, and the influence of elders, past, present and emerging. And personally, I want to also acknowledge the lineage that I come from through my shiatsu and Oriental medicine, of teachers past, present and students, and the knowledge, the gifting of this incredible body of wisdom. And in the tradition of starting, I will invite everybody to join me in whatever sound they like to make. I will use a traditional Om sound with the three aspects of the Om broken up into Ah, O and Om. And so allow that to resonate through you. You're welcome to turn your speakers on while we do the Om and then turn it off afterwards. Bringing the hands together in Gasho. Taking an out breath. Breathing in, and imagine the color green as we start with the first part of the sound. Ah. Thank you. And I honor all the information that you bring in this session. And so for the first 40 minutes, I will be presenting. And I'll present some extra information following on from our last session. So this idea of Gate of Hope came from the name for Liver 14 as an opening point to release energy through the body and give us a sense of hope. And hope stays with us today as we're going to work with Gallbladder 14 and Liver 1. So different ends of the body, but as we work with heaven and earth. And so I will be presenting a little bit of information about the emotional aspect of the wood, working with the points, looking at the character of the points from the Taoist lineage, the way that they meditated on the meaning of these points. And we find that when we actually focus individually at one point and we add some reference to that point in the meaning, and we can turn that into some form of mantra for us, some affirmation. And some self-shiatsu, also could be known as tapping, can be used to access that point, energizing and making that energy more available. So that's what I want to present and work with today. As always, this is an invite for you to join in, but you work with whatever arises for yourself. And I'll allow 20 minutes at the end for some general conversation on your experience, reflections, things that you might have come to know about wood, and particularly these 2 points. So if it's okay, we'll have questions at the end. I'm just going to start by sharing my screen. Thank you. So we know that we see life in this beautiful balance of these 5 elements. And in ancient cultures looked at these 5 points of the pentagram as a way of representing the whole universe. So this relationship between fire and earth, metal, water and wood. And those of us who've worked with Oriental medicine will be familiar with these relationships in the generating cycle, the mother and child, where one element supports and feeds and generates the next. And within this circle, the controlling or co-cycle, where we've got a grandparent of an element having some sort of constraining or controlling effect. So we see the relationship of wood here. Its mother is water and its child is fire. But its grandparent is metal. And this is very important when we look at the emotion of anger, which we will work with today. Wow, what is so interesting is these notions of spirits that go with all of these specific elements. And the spirit of wood and the liver is called the Hun. This is our ethereal soul. This is our yang breath, the spiritual aspect of our soul. And it has 3 aspects, the ethereal soul. One that is common to plants and animals and humans, a vegetative aspect. And this is why having fresh plants helps to imbue our bodies with the soul of the plant. There's the animal form of the Hun, which is also common with animals and humans, and explains that incredible relationship that we can have with animals, that psychic knowing. And then a particular aspect of the Hun, the spirit, this ethereal spirit that is just particular to the human psyche. And what is incredible is that it's like this vaporous, ever-changing aspect, this ethereal soul. And it's to do with our visions, our dreams and our imaginations. And it's the animating force, it's the agent for all our mental processes. It enters the body shortly after birth and follows the Shen from the kidneys and heart back into the heavenly realms after death. And it's much more materialized, much more substantial than the spirit, the Shen that resides in the heart. Let's hold this idea about vision, imagination, clear direction, and the capacity for justice. our sleeping and our dreaming. So the horn are responsible for us sleeping well at night, for maintaining sound, peaceful sleep and peaceful dreams. So it's important to remember this when we're looking at pathologies of the horn, of the liver and the wood and the gallbladder. Often first manifest with changes in the state of the dreams, changes in the state of sleep. And in fact, my teacher, Paul Movsesian, talked about most disturbances of sleep are to do with the liver. Even though we obviously also have the lung, the metal element has its time overnight, most of the evening, the night time, is the time of wood element, and it's this aspect of this ethereal horn. Our emotional balance, the horn maintains this balance of all our emotional life, and therefore if our emotions are repressed, the liver energy gets stagnant, and we'll talk about this as we work with these, particularly these 2 points we're going to work with today. Decision-making and planning. It supports the psychological function of decision-making and planning, helping us carry the insights and intuitions from the heart into the realm of matter and manifestation by creating a course of action and deciding on priorities. It gives us a sense of direction and a vision for life. And the horn are responsible for our ability to see the colours in the world through our eyes, our inner vision, our clarity, imagining possibilities, and particularly allowing us to have the strength to stand for what we believe in, justice. The emotion of wood is anger. How interesting is this? New is the word. And emotion in the Oriental medicine context comes from the deepest part of ourselves. And though it cannot be seen, it creates life by its inner motion. So already we have that sense of movement, of dynamism. So the will that comes from the kidneys, which is the mother of wood, is the ability to contain this emotion and use it with purpose. So this important function of mother and child, the kidney helping the wood element to contain emotion and to use it with purpose. When this upward thrust and vitality of spring is used with purpose, its dynamic energy moves life like an unstoppable bud on a tree in warm sunlight. This surge of life becomes both intention and expression. And when there is imbalance, our energy is blocked and we feel frustration and anger. And in Oriental medicine, it's said that the heart runs away when there is anger, like a child in a family of domestic violence. The parent is the wood, the child is the heart. But if the parent, us as the parent of our heart, stops and makes contact with that inner source of calm again, to harness that impulse, and we need to draw on that will from the kidney, bring it back into balance so the energy is used and not lost. And when this life force, this anger, which is raw energy, is filled with the warmth and love of the sun, then this vibrant, flexible, direct growth happens with the speed that is available at no other time in the yearly cycle than here in spring. So when our spring within us flows freely, there is tremendous energy that sets us into action with a dynamic hopefulness and vision. And it is in spring that we see the world with fresh eyes and inspiration. And we can use this energy to put new ideas into action. So the balance of wood in our personality means that we feel confident and motivated. We have the power to envision the future and have incredible insights. We can take this insight and vision and make strategic plans. We're courageous and resourceful in implementing change, and we love a challenge and welcome deadlines. It draws on that ambitious and competitive energy in a good way. And it's about growth, change, and expansion. So wood is of the spring when the grass shoots up and the earth is vital and full of activity. And it allows us to burst forth with an assertive drive. But when it is out of balance or is blocked from fully expressing ourselves, then there may be an inability of these qualities above, where over time this imbalance grows and becomes more and more severe. We see then the problems of what occurs. Confidence can turn to tyranny, motivation to confrontation, planning to reckless impulsiveness, and our courage turns to aggression, our ambition to arrogance, and competitiveness turns to pretension. So let's stop for a moment. And I'm going to just invite, before we come to the points, let's have a little bit of a perhaps expression about how this is for you. There's a lot there, isn't there, to take on this idea of the spirit. I just invite, has anyone reflected on the spirit before the horn or have some ideas in their own clinical experience? Karen, thank you. Fellow Taurian, you put your hand up whether you liked it or not. Oh, me, yes, you. You're not getting out of it. Come on down, Karen. Your horn, even if you didn't want to talk, your horn wants to talk. Come on.
That was completely by accident. Hello.
Nothing is by accident, Karen.
I haven't been practicing for quite some time, so I'm afraid I can't bring anything to the table, but it's very helpful to see how it's all linking in and just to go over things that I knew but had forgotten.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else reflecting on the horn? Kalika, lovely to see you. Tell me your stories.
Okay, and now these days I work in hospice and end of life mostly.
That's right.
Which is wonderful. But I haven't been reflecting on it until the moment of this workshop.
Yes.
Is that I'd kind of forgotten. I haven't forgotten about the spiritual aspects because that's really important to me, but I've forgotten about this idea of them coming in at different times.
Yes.
And it's just occurred to me, because actually my mother-in-law died yesterday, so I'm in a very
it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really on my mind right now about what point someone's still here and what aspect of them is still here. But also in my work, I've noticed the separation of the body from the physical body from the spiritual body over a period of days. But I hadn't put it into Chinese medicine terms until this morning. I hadn't thought of that. So I'm just wondering, do you know at what point the hun, you're saying it comes in after birth and leaves, do you know what point it leaves the physical body?
No, but my sense is, and I will have to research that and we'll come to that, I'll look at it a bit more next time, is that it leaves through the eyes. And certainly in being with my father as he passed away and my father-in-law, their eyes rolled and as their spirit left. So my sense was eyes. Belinda, please share what your experience. Thank you, Kalika.
Something that I've noticed with dementia patients in particular, and my nan passed away from Alzheimer's, and I've observed other clients who have had someone with Alzheimer's around them. And for me, what I've observed is a vacancy in the eyes. And so as you said that, I was curious as to in the process of letting go that happens with dementia, if the point where you can see there's no one left in the eyes are very different. And from a personal perspective, I didn't even pick that up in my grandmother until I looked back at a photo of her holding my firstborn, and I realized then, oh, she was gone. I saw her in the eyes, she wasn't there.
Right. That's
So
right.
I've been fascinated by the journey in end of life care of, as the body deteriorates, the spirit seems to lift and expand. And one of my own teachers has actually experienced that. She said, as my body's declining, I can feel my spiritual self growing and becoming more enriched, and I'm seeing more colors, but her body was breaking down. So there's sort of a two-question aspect there. Is perhaps that is dependent on the person and what their bardo of leaving this world, whatever karma they're burning through. Perhaps that's at the point where Hun leaves. For example, with my grandmother, I felt looking back at that picture and at a friend's mother as well, I could tell that Hun had left. I saw that from her eyes.
Yes.
And then the Shen leaving through the crown.
Crown of the head. Yes.
Yeah, just something
Yes. Thank
that
you.
caused me to think.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Kalika, did anyone else want to have any expression about their experience with the Hun and passing, or even the start of life, birthing? And it's interesting if we think about the lungs in relationship to it on the controlling cycle, particularly around when the Hun is completely out of balance. And we talked about the need of the will in the kidneys, but the Po in the lungs on the controlling cycle, on that co-cycle, are very important for also maintaining a sense of restraint with the liver. So anyone else want to have any sharing about their experience of the Hun? Maitri, have you had, I'm going to point to you because, you know, I wonder whether you've reflected on or had any experience thinking about particularly the Hun. Could you come off mute, please? Thank you.
Hello. Yeah. Just the last couple of days, usually when I sleep, I don't remember dreams. I sleep quite deeply, even though I might surface to roll over. In the morning when I wake up, I don't remember a lot of dreaming, but over the last three, I'm on a day 3 of a fast, a no food fast at the moment.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And just today and yesterday, I woke up with thoughts of there had been some tension in my dreaming this week, and that's very unusual. And so I've just now related it to, well, my liver may be having a bit of a cleanse,
Yes.
you know, in this time when everything's moving so much,
Yes.
and I'm not having any food. And I hadn't even thought about it till then. So yes, the liver, the Hun, and the dreaming aspect for me is definitely kind of engaged at the moment. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for that reminder.
And
When I'm
in
like, oh, what's it all
peak
about? I need to work out the dream.
Yes.
Do I need
Yes.
to contact those people in my dream, or is it just my stuff? You know, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Mm.
Does anyone else want to share any experience of the Hun before we look at the actual character of the points, which is also extraordinary?
Well, I've got a question for you.
Yes, Jennifer.
What happens when you have a liver transplant?
Yes, and in fact, one of my closest friends had a liver transplant 30 years ago. Just when I started shiatsu, we actually tried doing shiatsu to see if we could save him having a transplant. And what's been extraordinary is one of the first things that went was his hearing. So it wasn't his vision. His hearing, had to have hearing aids because he was a young man at the time. But he then took on the spirit of the person that he had, the body, the liver of the girl, and started doing all these extreme sports, swam the English Channel and things that he'd never done before. So the spirit of the girl that definitely lived on in his liver and created this feeling or this behavior that he was separate from himself in terms of doing all of these extreme behaviors. It was been extraordinary over the 30 years to experience being around him with that liver transplant, and they now have a close relationship to the recipient's parents. So they've got this extended family where the liver continues having its life through him. It's extraordinary.
Because I had a liver transplant 2 years ago.
Oh, so Jennifer.
I'm just wondering, because I found I don't know who I am anymore at all. I mean, I was ill for a very long time, but I was wondering about the hun, you know, whether my hun's left and this one's arrived. And I found myself to be a little bit more aggressive than I normally would be. And I think I've got a feeling it's a male liver. And it's really interesting.
That is absolutely fascinating. And the point, liver one, which we will look at in a moment. Hi, Nat. Yes, you can. I got your message. We'll see that liver one, being the well point and the first point of the channel, holds so much energy. And you might find this is a really good one for you because it's about the connection to earth and the rooting to reconnect you. So I'll be really, interested in how you experiment with this over the next 4 weeks till we come into the next phase of this. So thank you for sharing, Jennifer. Thank you. Nat, come on, you got to talk. Not just wave. Come on, talk to me about your horn.
Well, the horn is one of the things that I always stuck with me because when I was studying its relationship to the liver, and when the liver is depressed, for example, when you suppress it with alcohol or whatever, that therefore the hun and its goal setting abilities or the influence it has on goal setting is also depressed. So that's the alcohol and the depression link, that it's a depressive made sense for me. And also it's interesting to hear of today about the lungs, and when you think about when there's liver qi stagnation, that there's a lot of sighing, like people are very, so like I know of someone who's very angry a lot and finds things like just normal, things that you need to take care of, like very annoying, and always sighing, like, and so there's that link also that, is...
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
pressing the diaphragm down to grasp the chi, and the chi to allow it to settle. And we know that when there's been severe grief, that the lungs can create this energy where they haven't got the capacity to then do their work of containing or restraining wood, and it goes out of balance. So that therefore underneath anger may be grief, unspoken grief.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yes, Lydia, thank you. Your hand's up, Lydia. You have to come off mute. No, maybe she's just got her hand up and she's just waving. Anyone else want to say anything before we go into the points? Yeah, Lorraine, thank you. Lorraine's my yoga teacher. I'm putting you on, and we'll be studying shiatsu next year.
Definitely. I like what you've just said, that the underneath the anger is probably grief, because that's something that my husband and I are experiencing at the moment. And the connection of the liver, the liver is connected with the emotion of anger, but the will comes from the kidney, and that the ability to contain this emotion, but use it with purpose. I found that connection really interesting. That you know, it's okay, that idea that it's okay to feel anger and to perhaps analyze what's underneath, and as you just said, the grief, but also to be able to actually stand back and take a breath and say, I'm angry, why am I angry, what's below it, and how important that is, which I assume is what it is. That's the sort of thing that's meant by the ability to contain the emotion and use it with purpose, the will part of it. So you're using your will to actually stand back and go, why am I angry, what's at the bottom of this, how can I best approach it next time? Is that right?
Well, that would be, you know, there's many ways, isn't there? As they say, to skin a cat. Poor cats, they always get caught out in this. But, you know, I like the idea that Pema Chodron talks about not biting the hook.
Yeah.
And so using the force, that raw energy, to motivate us to action, but not letting us get caught in the storyline, biting the hook and then going trailing off and all our energy's going with that. So there's that constrainment shouldn't be restraining in terms of pushing something down. And as we know, there's also everything needs to be moving. So it's always about the free flowing, and that's the responsibility of the liver, and the gallbladder is about the decision making. So the liver is in charge, and the gallbladder is the chief of staff, actually carries things out. So you need to use that raw energy. And so anger has a very negative taste in our Western culture. In Chinese, they say it's a raw energy. It's an energy that's a force that we can use. It pushes through the ground, like the roots of the tree or the parts of the tree pushing up buds. So, yeah. Did anyone else want to say anything about Hun? I think we'll continue on to, I want to go to the points. So beautiful, these points. So gallbladder 14, now this point is right over the frontal lobe, and it's used in kinesiology as a way of really calming the brain. So here, let's just find it on ourselves. We'll come back to actually doing the self shiatsu. I hope that's a clear enough picture. It's, you know, exactly above the pupil, one sun, one measurement. You know, if we take sun as being one section from one joint of the finger, above our eyebrow. And so it's a bilateral point. And remembering, sometimes with disease in our body, points can be move either medial or lateral. So if you don't feel it there, and there will be a pulse, you know, the blood vessels come to the surface at that point. So that's just your image of it. Okay, where is my, sorry, I need to go to a screen that moves. Why isn't that one? Come back to this one, sorry, and slideshow, big from current. Okay, right. What I love is looking at these characters, and firstly, I'd like you to use your hands and come up. Obviously, a computer is going to have energy, its own electromagnetics, but the actual character. And if this idea that our eyes have this vision, we can actually close our eyes and using our fingers have a sense of the character. Certainly I can feel there's more on the left. The actual yang word holds more than bai. So yang bai, and bai is white. So bai is bai shao, peony is used in Chinese herbs. So traditionally the word means the white of yang. And you can go online, there's really nice, plenty of images online, also pronunciation. I've tried to do it several times today. I hope I've got yang bai, the bright, clear energy of yang that gives us movement, vitality, and clarity. Oops, sorry, I'll just go back. And what's important, what's so amazing about this point is that at this point, we've got this connection. So it's like a major traffic network in the brain. And this is why I think it's so powerful. Here you connect with Yang Weimai, which is also known as the Yang linking vessel. And so because it's connecting, it starts to have this effect right through all the Yang meridians. So here we've got this dynamic vitality of energy that helps to unite and balance the growth of all these Yang meridians. Now you can email the college later. I'll send through the slides. The recording will be available as well. So the image of Yang, as in Yang and Yin, it's drawn as a hill, and it's like the sun over the horizon. And underneath, the second part is a shimmering flag. So, sorry, that should be Yang. Yang puts things into motion. It's this vibrant impulse, the sunny side of the mountain, which is one of the ways they describe Yang when they're comparing Yang to Yin. So they say sun and warmth. The Bai, the white part, it's drawn as also as a round hole with a line. That means something's also empty. And so this is such a beautiful notion that in this space, with all this Yang vitality, this vital energy, there's also space for emptiness. And here, this capacity then to receive the energy all around you. So I love this idea, and it came to me in my meditation that this point brings everything together in all the Yang meridians, but it's also space of possibilities because it's a space where there's emptiness as well. And it's like that moment, the sun which has just appeared on the horizon, the dawn, a clear, bright light. So you can see, because it's also related to our eyes, and last time we worked with gallbladder 1, which was clear vision, that if you start to see this lovely pathway as this gallbladder channel in the head traverses from the side of the eyes, goes around the ears, around the temporal lobe, and then comes quite strongly to this point, this one point, and then heads back over the top of the head. So at this point of Yang Bai, Yang White, gallbladder 14, it's also calming all that sympathetic activity that's happening in the brain. So we've got this beautiful capacity then for this clarity, this emptiness, this nakedness through this one point. And in the discourse about the point, it talks about our essential nature, which is pure. And by emptying ourselves, we find this purity inside. And the Bai, the white part, is talked about, you know, white is often used in spiritual ceremonies as a symbol of purity. And here we've got this pure vitality, and with this movement and action, that here, the vitality of sunlight that puts so much energy into our vision, clarity of vision. So with this linking, this meeting point, so the Sanjiao vessel, the stomach and the large intestine, so that's phenomenal power in this one point. So the gallbladder, the Sanjiao, the stomach and the large intestine, wow. So think about this energy of wood constitutional people whose spirit needs encouraging into action, or who are in a muddle. They've got a plan, but they're failing to firm it up and move on. This point, the clarity which this point brings, clarity is embedded into the point's name, because one of the other translation of Bai, white, is also clear, clarity. So a lot of the points on the gallbladder around the head have to do with wind. And certainly if you're in Victoria at the moment, we know wind is the climatic aspect of wood element and spring. And so it can be used on a physical level with things like headaches, neck stiffness, jerking and shaking, even of something so distal as restless leg syndrome. And naturally it benefits the eyes and the vision. And I always like to refer also to John Kirkwood, who on his newsletters, talks a lot about the different aspects of the points. So perhaps I'll just briefly have a look and see, is anyone wanting to say anything before we go? We might just continue on. I'll just continue. And our second point, great clarity. Wow, isn't there a theme here from one end of the body to the other? So we've gone from this clear vision of light in our gallbladder where it's connecting, and now we're going down the other end of the body to the first point on the liver channel. Now, I was inspired, and I see Amel is joining us when we had a lovely session with the association and beautiful cooking, that one of the participants talked about a doctor that Chinese doctor that she worked with, and he used liver one all the time for everything. It was just like the penultimate point. So I reckon if it was good enough for him and he had a great business, then why not? Let's take liver one and run with it. Now, why is it so powerful? Da dun, more clarity. Let's have a look at the character. Again, you might like to scan in, or that could be a home practice that you do, that you actually take screenshot of the image, print it out and place it over the point and feel the energy of the character. The fullness of good esteem. Here we break down the two words, da dun. And the da part is drawn as a grown man with a knot in his hair. And this was seen in ancient cultures to represent maturity, an elder, imminent, something that's important, but also something that's simple. And dun is drawn like a lamb, a meek and mild lamb. Again, something honest and simple and good, something true. And so here it talks about us being in our own true nature, being at home with ourselves, giving us the confidence to put our goals into action and leave behind what's no longer needed. And using this strength at this point, da dun, this great clarity, fullness of good esteem to help us to move forward with a force like a brand new shoot pushing through last year's decay to open fresh green roots with crisp, clear spring air like it is today. And so when we're able to receive and give from our essence and use our inner vision, then the respect and honour for both ourselves and others comes through as we stand tall like a tree. And here at this point of da dun, the old wood can be shed and our true identity can come out. And so while we're looking at this, I want you just to pound that big toe as much as you can to try and get liver one, and just feel if there's any frustration, any lacking in hope, that as you start to work liver one, it's giving us strength and confidence to become flexible and adaptable, giving us the courage to believe in our goals and know how to get where we need to get to. So here, with this whole energy of wood, we start to see that at this point, it's the well point, the most active energy point of the whole meridian. It's the entry point. So it's the wood point on the wood channel in the wood season. And if we really wanted to take it one step further, we wait between 1 and 3 a.m. and work this point. So that's the whole kit and caboodle. We've just got this great clarity. We've got this incredible force of energy, great honesty coming from this point. And just another image, if we look at the bones and also look at the relationship, very close relationship with the second and the third point. Next time, we're going to look at the second point on the liver channel. So I'd like to introduce the notion that we can do self-shiatsu, tapping on these points. And that if we have this idea of grounding, and we've got these two beautiful juxtaposed points, liver one, taking us down deep into the soil, but allowing us to be firm and well-rooted to come up for our vision and connecting then with gallbladder 14 at the top of the head. So I invite you to have perhaps your own affirmation, or you might like to use the one that I've got, because I think it's always about coming to an energy of loving and accepting and practicing that. So we do practice loving and accepting ourselves, and somehow learning to forgive and let go. If there is that energy of anger and unrest, we somehow want to work with that. So I invite you to take a couple of minutes, perhaps choose one of the points, or you could always have your foot up, holding liver 1 at the same, on the left at the same time, doing the gallbladder 14, and having a tapping or holding, rubbing, pressing, or just sensing. Sensing into that. Sensing into any feelings, sensations, visions, images. And if you're holding one side, I'll invite you to hold the other. And allowing that whole clarity to fill your being. And quietly releasing those points. And I'm going to stop sharing and invite everybody back to share with me. You know, thankfully I have enough wood energy that I'm presenting to a screen, and when I have my PowerPoints I can't even see anyone, but you know, thankfully I'm used to it. But it's really nice for me. My wood needs my relationship with all of you. So I'd really be interested in some feedback on our session today. So I haven't even looked at the clock. Yep, 10 to 5. I'm going to have a mouthful of my green tea, and I'm going to invite some feedback. Please put your hand up. Sarah, please come on down.
Hi, everyone. I was just reflecting on just at the end, after holding both those points, the one that resonated the most for me was the liver one. And as I sit here now, it really feels like I have that tentacle or root extending down into the ground. So there's a sense of anchoring. And this one, I think I felt it more when we just initially talked about it at the start. But for me, again, it was this sense of expanding up here. So yeah, this sensation from my feet has this really solid grounding, like a cord connecting in. And this one is a sense of like clearing space, just like the air has expanded around that area for me. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Belinda, are you going to? Belle, are you going to share? Thank you.
Yes, I will. I'm just sort of having a bit of a chuckle. I only saw the invitation for this morning. I went, oh yes, I'll be in that. And I feel like I've gone through the full gamut of everything you've spoken about in one day today, just to get the experiential learning of it. So having a fairly good couple of days and feeling hopeful and looking forward to seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and returning back to work. And then somebody in a cafe sort of dropped the bomb that they've heard rumours, of course, that this is going to be extended past to the end of November. And the anger that came up in me was palpable. And ironically, I was heading into the city to take my son to a doctor's appointment. And there's some of and I parked right at the botanical gardens, and the trees there, I don't know if you've seen them, I'm not sure what type they are, but they almost look Jurassic. They're branches are so big. I felt like I was under a brontosaurus or something, and my son was sort of hanging off them a bit. And that beautiful feeling like helped to dissipate some of that. It was ferocious anger. And then just as I'm tapping, particularly gallbladder 14, I was holding them both at the same time, but that tapping was like a veil just sort of melted away to get some clarity.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm sure you're expressing what a lot of us feel. Thank you. Thank you. Amel?
Hello.
Hi, it was such a lovely session that you did with the association as well. So I wondered what your experience from today's session.
Well, I can definitely feel your purpose when you're sharing with us, and your will to transmit this information. Like I can feel the force behind you, like the wood force behind you. So that's great.
There's the force behind me.
And yeah, it's that liver. I use gallbladder 14 on people, not so much on me. So it was actually great to hold it and feel that calming sensation and a bit of clarity coming as well. And liver 1, I don't really tend to use it that much, so it's a double reminder that I definitely need to start using it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you. I won't pick on anyone else, it's okay, but I do expect people to talk.
Marie, I could definitely feel a direct impact on my vision, like in my eye.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was nice.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, I've sensed a bit of clarity as well, like mental clarity. And similarly, I never used liver 1. It's interesting. I've used liver 3.
That's right. Of course, liver 3 everybody knows about. Liver 1, it's the distant cousin.
Yes,
yes. Yeah, but so beautiful.
Very powerful. And it is quite grounding, and that's what I need, is grounding.
Yeah.
So both of those points are wonderful. Thank you for allowing me to be here and the presentation. Yeah, it's lovely to see you, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share? Kalika.
I'll just say I was so surprised as soon as I put my finger on liver 1. It was so deficient. It was like my finger being sucked into a hole. And then whatever your words were, as soon as I can't even remember what the words were, but the word, I was thinking, oh, the finger, it's so deficient. And then your words just sunk in, and I realized whatever you had said is exactly what I'd been feeling, what I was lacking.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was just really interesting to note. So I've got to do some work on my liver 1 by the sound of things.
Thank you. And how could we use this in clinical practice? Well, for homework, we could have one point to give a client, and, we can research the points. There's quite a lot online. We can find out, have a sense of it, because we do so much in a treatment, and often, we don't focus, we focus on the major points, but we don't go to that level. And it would be a really nice thing for people to have something to work with. Imagery that is rich in our culture of Oriental medicine. So thank you, Kalika, for reminding me of, really that's our culture has those words, has that embedded into this practice. Yeah. Steph, you're coming on. Are you going to say something?
Yes, if I can get myself off mute.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the energy of spring in lockdown too, and how contacting these points can help with redirecting some of that energy that might normally be used with you know, getting in the car and going for a drive, or
yes,
a long hike or something like that into a creative practice, you know, that you can do at home, and using the wood energy in that way rather than through as much movement as we might be used to.
Yes, thank you. And certainly visioning and colours, using that notion from Gallbladder 14 of allowing colours to come through. Thank you.
On the note of colours, I just remembered in, I think it was in one of Paul's Obsessions lessons.
That's right.
We did colour dot therapy, and I've just realised I've got dots in my top drawer, and I've just got some green dots. So I'm going to put a green dot on liver 1 today.
Thank you for reminding us.
So for me, it's 6:30 in the morning here, so I've not been very bright. I'm having my morning cup of tea and trying to wake up.
Where are you?
I'm in the UK. I'm in Cheltenham in the Cotswolds.
Oh my heavens! Well, I'm in Cheltenham, but it's not the Cotswolds. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So yeah, that's where I am. So that's why I've been quite quiet this morning, because I'm like waking up.
That's
but yeah,
fantastic.
so this will be my for the day. I'll be wearing green dots on my.
Thank you. And you can also, as Kalika reminded us, the power of the colour on a point, and that's like also the power of the character on a point. So you could print off the character in green ink and put it on the point, or you can get a green texter, non-toxic, and put a dot on the point, and that will actually enhance the character of the point. So thank you for reminding us of that. Would anyone else like to share anything before we finish up? Thanks, Nat. Okay, so I think it's good to, once again, if we finish with one and, you know, honour and offer these teachings and the practices, particularly the energy of anger. You know, what a great one to be able to work with and use it for change, transforming it and embracing it, taking it into our being. So you're welcome to unmute and join me with the just one Om chant to finish. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I look forward to continue the journey through the elements next month. Hopefully out of lockdown.
Yes, cross.
Thank you, that was great, Marie.
Great,
Thank you
great
so
to
much.
see everybody.
You.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Marie.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Thanks.